Okay, so hi all. This is Benjamin reporting from Moscow, and I'm just overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start because there's so much to say. I've been here for 4 days, I think now. Four, maybe the fifth. I think no, this is just the fourth day, and just overwhelmed. Yeah. There's so much to say. It's just a lot to take in. Um, Michael asked me to give a little report of my experience and my impressions, and of course, they're going to be very subjective. I can only talk about how I perceive things. And first of all, let's start with the obvious. Moscow is an incredibly beautiful city, absolutely magnificent, majestic, really, really beautiful, gorgeous buildings, everything renovated. There's no sense of poverty or destitution or anything. Just beautiful. And, I've been to a lot of beautiful cities, but Moscow is huge and grand, and it just has the impression of a very different style than other, European cities. It has, of course, all the European style buildings, but it also has those typical Russian huge buildings like the Lomonosov or however you pronounce but it's like a very typical with these big towers. But of course, the Russian Orthodox churches and any church here, which there are a lot of them, are just huge and built in a very different style. And I have to say, of course, that inner part of Moscow with the Kremlin is just overwhelming. It's so big. I saw it, of course, with the Christmas lights, which are everywhere. Everything is lit up. They're not really short on energy here, so they're not really saving. Everything is illuminated to the max. There are gigantic Christmas streets technically on every corner. Huge wide boulevards and roads everywhere. Anyway, so Moscow is just beautiful, very modern. It has restaurants, bars, cafes, everything that you could enjoy in any Western European city or Central European city. The the public transportation is what I have to send pictures of the metro lines. I mean, they have like a million metro lines. You can go everywhere. Michael asked me to report a little bit on the prices, just to kind of with a little forward. It's just, I think by and large, I'm not very good with numbers and I don't really compare prices. So my initial impression is kind of, if I compare Budapest and Paris are about the same price. So most everything, maybe Budapest is a tiny little bit cheaper, but I think it's pretty much the same price for everything. And so if I compare Moscow to Budapest and Paris, I would say that the public transportation, which is fantastic, there are metro lines everywhere, is about half price. So, like half price. Yeah. So it's maybe maybe less than half price. The 50 cents, because it's like €1, I think, is like one ruble. No, 10 rubles is a euro, I think, if I'm correct. So something like that. So anyhow, so it seems to me like it's half, like half as Paris. Food prices are pretty much the same. Restaurants, which are everywhere, there's everything you can eat, everything you can think of. Very, very modern, very cool places. Just my impression is about like half of Paris for the same kind of quality everywhere. I think about that. The services are fantastic. They don't try to get your money. There's no tourist scams. Everything is extremely fair. And this is what I'm going to get to, is the biggest surprise are the people. It's just, I'm so impressed. Just, wow. People are extremely elegant, very well dressed, especially in the center of Moscow, but everyone's just minding their business. They're not overwhelming. There's not this really, this fake happy veneer. Everyone's just really kind, very, very kind. People are very serious, but not grim. They're just very, very kind. And everybody's just minding their business and doing their jobs and living their lives. And the restaurants are full and the streets are full and the cafes are full. So I don't know if they are aware that there are sanctions. I just don't know if they're aware of it. I was like, they don't seem to be, but also they don't even seem to be aware of the war. I'm sure they are. They know about it, but it's just like you feel nothing of the war. Yeah, just absolute peace. Everyone's just going about their business, well dressed and calm. The metro system is gorgeous. Moscow, metro is famous for its, architecture and decor and everything. And yeah, it's like, very modern. Some of the lines are different. Like the lines in the metro the stations are gorgeous, but the lines themselves, like the trains, especially in the center, I know the central lines are fantastic. Everything is digital displays. There's USB ports on the seats. Yeah, very clean. If I go a little bit farther outside, then you get the older trains and stuff like that. But in the center, the central lines are all super modern and clean. So the people are very, very kind. Everyone's just very happy to help. They're not shy, but they're not arrogant. Everyone's just very level-headed and just doing their thing. And quite a large number of people speak functional English. A few people speak extremely good English. And some people who don't speak English would just say, I don't speak English, and they would try to help you or just ask somebody who speaks English around them. It's like I have to get to the part where the difficult part, which was not because of Russia's fault, but the difficult part was when I was having the cash and banking issue. So if you come to Moscow, you have to be aware that you have to take it seriously that there's no way you can pay for anything. There's no way you can withdraw cash. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. It doesn't matter how many cards you have. If it's not in the Mir system, if it's in the SWIFT system, MasterCard, Visa, whatever card you have, you cannot withdraw cash. You cannot pay for anything. So basically, you're just going to starve and freeze to death. The Russians are fine. Moscow is fine. But if you come here with your Western card, you're screwed. And basically, you could bring cash like euros or dollars. Maybe some friend knows somebody who will exchange money for you, who can use it or has a Western account or something. But they're not going to rush to exchange it either. I mean, it's like they're not jumping on, why dollars or euros. They can't use it. They have no use for it. So you may or may not be able to exchange your euros or dollars to rubles. That's my experience. Maybe somebody else has a different experience. Somebody said, a friend of mine said, yeah, maybe if you had brought cash, which I should have, maybe it would have been easier. But maybe my friend's friend, she could have found somebody who exchanged it, but nobody jumps on your dollars or euros. Just believe me, they're not going to jump on it. Then just back to the people, very, very elegant, well-dressed, normal. And the first day, I did a little trick when I arrived at the airport. I went into a shop and I bought like a bottle of water because I had 0.0 rubles. For some reason, I didn't heed my friend's advice that she had given me. So I had just no cash at all. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't pay for my train into the city or anything from the airport. So I went into the store and I bought a bottle of water. And the lady was kind enough to actually looked up the price of how much, the exchange rate. And she was like, what do I do? So the lady, the clerk just asked another lady, like, what do I do? Like, how much is it? So they just kind of calculated how much rubles I was going to get back from like 20 euros. So they gave me the change back in rubles, which I was so happy to get. So I had enough rubles for like the first day. But it ran out quickly, so I was able to pay for my first hotel. I had not made reservations because even if you make reservations, you may be able to reserve your hotel with your card. They will reserve the room for you with your card, but you cannot pay for it. So when you arrive on site, you will have to pay cash, okay? You don't be deceived. If you've received your room with a card, they will not be able to withdraw the price from the card, so they're just going to ask for cash. So anyhow, I had enough cash for the first night, and then I was kind of running out, and that was really annoying, and that was the really, really hard part. That day was quite cold in Moscow. I had never been in a situation before, and this is the scary part, this is the strange part, that you don't know until you get there that you're in a city, everyone's going about their business, everybody can do whatever they want, and you cannot eat and cannot find shelter because you cannot pay for anything. I'd never been in a situation like this before. It was really bizarre, and this is when you realize that all you can do is rely on people. And so I went into a place, and I had to use the Wi-Fi. There's pretty good Wi-Fi everywhere. So I went into a place to use the Wi-Fi in like a very, very trendy design, this kind of cool industrial, post-industrial like design place everywhere, like design studio. So I went in there because I had some business to do there. And so I went to the cafe, and there was this really, really cool tea place with a gazillion teas. And, I just said, can I have a tea? And I had no idea how much rubles are. And I had like literally 150 rubles left. And I said, this is the money I have. And the man said, yeah, normal, which means like, yeah, okay, fine, normal, no problem. And gave me this tea. And then later I checked, and the tea was like double price, but they didn't care. It was like, people are just really kind. It's just, and they don't make a big deal of it. They're like, oh, I'm helping you. It's very, very normal. And the next day, I have some friends here, but they could not help either, because it doesn't matter who you give money. They cannot, even if you give them euros or dollars, fine, but they will not be able to, transfer rubles to you unless you have a Russian account. So basically, the next day, it was really, really difficult, and we tried with my friends to solve the issue, and they let me stay at the hotel. It was a little bit difficult because you have to pay up front for your hotel, but that we talked to this man, and we said, tomorrow when the banks open, maybe I can withdraw cash. Some people misinformed me, and they said that certain banks will work with European cards, and you can withdraw rubles from a dollar or euro account at Sberbank or Raiffeisen. They have Raiffeisen here, I think, which is an Austrian bank, but they've got these banks and several others. And somebody told me that it may be possible. And they also told me that the banks are open on weekends. Now, 50% of it's true, because some banks are open on weekends, and the rest of it is absolutely not true, because do not believe that you can withdraw money. Anybody can tell you anything. You cannot use your cards. No banks would deal with you. They would just say, sorry, get out. They don't deal with, they won't say get out, but they'll just say, we can't help you. We don't work with European cards. So yeah, there you are. But I went just to try one thing. I went to Raiffeisen. I have a Raiffeisen account back in Budapest. Now I saw they have Raiffeisen banks here in Moscow. And so I opened a Raiffeisen account, which was not so easy. The lady was amazing. She did her job really well. She was dealing with me for 3 hours, very kindly, showing everything on the application, half English, half Google Translate, and trying to download the application for me, open the account. Everything gave me a Mir card. So now I have a Russian bank account and a Russian Mir card, which we had 0 rubles on it. So I was, not much better off. It was, fine. I had a Russian account, but how do I put money on it? I could not transfer. They informed me that I may be able to transfer from my Hungarian Raiffeisen account to my Russian Raiffeisen account, but it would take 4 days. That's not going to help me when I have 0.0 rubles. I'm standing there. So that was a no-go. So finally, what we did is, like, my friend had a friend who at one point lived in Australia, and she had not closed her Australian account, so she still had a Australian account going with Australian dollars, but now she has returned to Moscow. She lives here but holds an account back in Australia. So basically, I had a Revolut, so from my Revolut account, I sent money to the Australian account, and everybody was trusting each other because I trusted them. They trusted me because the money would be deposited onto her account like 3 or 4 days. But she said, fine, if you just give me a screenshot, or even if you don't give me, I really trust that you transfer the money. So they transferred the money to my new Russian account. And that was such a relief. That made me so emotional. That's when I called Michael. He can testify that I was just really, really emotional. I broke down crying because it had been such a difficult 1.5 days that seemed like forever, of not knowing how you're going to pay for your hotel, how you're going to you're gonna pay for your meals. So basically, yeah. So now I have a Russian account. I have a Mir account with a card that I can use, and I can transfer money onto it. It takes a little while, but I can use it. And if somebody gives you cash for something, like if you pay for, if you work or somebody pays you cash, whatever, you can deposit money onto it. You can deposit rubles onto your Russian account. So that's the end of that story. And so now I just feel really, really blessed, just enjoying Moscow. Strangely, unfortunately, the weather has gotten really warm. When I got here, it was like minus 11 Celsius, minus 10 Celsius, and this was this typical, romantic Russian winter with this snow constantly falling, gorgeous lights everywhere, illuminated. And now it's like plus 1 degrees, everything's like melting. The city is still beautiful, but you don't have that. I just feel like I'm back in Budapest. Just like the weather is like really, it's not so wintry anymore. Maybe it will be later, but right now it's just normal. And yeah, I have still 4 days left, and I'm gonna make the most of it. The people are lovely. I mean, my friends are amazing, and there's no, just about the war and sanctions. One of the weirdest things, after 3 or 4 days, I realized there's something that just hit me. In 4 days, I have not heard anybody talk about politics. Nobody talked about the words I have not heard from anybody. Putin, Ukraine, Zelensky, war. Nothing. People just don't talk about it, not because they're not allowed to be, but because they don't need to. It's just like life goes on as normal. And they don't talk about this. I mean, there's no propaganda, all this dictator propaganda that we hear. I have not seen one advertisement, one photo of President Putin anywhere on TV, in the streets. It's like he doesn't exist. It's like everybody talks about Putin everywhere. In Russia, it looks like Putin does not exist. He's just doing his job quietly out there for his country, and the Russian people are just living their lives. And some people don't even support him. And you can, because you can debate, you can say whatever you want about him. Some people, and that's my concern, some people come up with, they need regime change because there's this Russophobia and this LGBTQ, Putin is, all this persecution of the gay community, which does not exist. Of course, my gay Russian friends can testify, and all this BS going on. But other than that, nothing. You can say anything you want, but normal people just don't talk about it. Some people support him, some people don't, but they don't really care. Life goes on, and life is great, and whatever he's just doing out there, his job, and nobody really talks about this at all. And about the war, yeah, people don't talk about it at all. And there's no hate. It's just, honestly, I was like, basically, I'm the one who ever brings it up. I'm the only one who mentions the politics of Zelensky. And people just kind of if you say, mention about the war European, people just go, yeah. But they don't jump on it either. They just don't think, yeah, this horrible thing. They don't care. And what else was there about? It was very interesting. About the sanctions. It's like people are not affected by it at all. Honestly, if you come here, you're affected by the sanctions. You can't pay for anything. The Russians are fine. And when I had trouble paying for things, people just kind of go, yeah, the sanctions. But they kind of felt like they say kind of like they're feeling sorry for you for not being able to pay. They don't care. Just, yeah, it's the sanctions. Let's move on. That's what it is. And that's how it is. It's just really, I mean, I could move here and live here and be fine. It's just, yeah, very, very normal. And life is it just goes on. There's food and everything. Groceries, I didn't go into grocery stores very much. I eat out. But just, again, I didn't compare prices. But I would say they're probably about like maximum, I think, half prices, like 50%. Costs are 50% as they are in Europe. Services, I'm in a hotel and I just got my laundry done by the service here. Well, I paid $50 in Budapest. It's so expensive. $50 for getting your laundry done. I'm like, I could not believe it. And I had to do it myself in a laundromat. Here, they did it for it was 250 rubles, which is, I don't know how many dollars, but it's like a few dollars, like $3, literally. They're doing him a lot for $3, and it's not because they are poor because they work cheaply. It's just that services don't cost much, and they don't try to rip you off. So one thing I wanted to say about that, and I was thinking about that today. I was in Russia many years ago when I was really young. I was on a study tour to St. Petersburg, and of course that was kind of before the regime change, just before the regime change, and it was still kind of the communist, you know, era, so to speak. And things were very different. It was not like this. Seriously, obviously, it was just not this luxury, everything renovated. It wasn't like this at all. And you could get things, but they cost you a lot. So things were super cheap, basic things that the Russians would have. And then for you as a foreigner, you could get like luxury items that were super expensive. Now it's not like that. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the same price category in terms of it would be, proportionally more expensive or less expensive, but they don't try to rip you off for something just because it's a luxury item. It's just normal to, I mean, I'm embarrassed even to say this because Russian, it's not an issue. You can get anything, and I think it's proportionally cheaper than we have in Budapest or in Paris. And yeah, I just don't see there's no sense of destitution or anything. When I went a little bit farther outside, I have to say, farther outside of you could see a little bit more realism. The metro line wasn't so luxurious, and the people were just a little bit less elegant. But pretty much, yeah, it's just very, very normal. This hotel is not actually in the city center. I kind of regret that a little bit because you have to try to stay in the city center with all the lights and everything. I'm not very far. I'm like 3 metro stops away, which is like one metro stop here is like 10 kilometers. But so I'm like 3 metro stops outside, and it's not very far out right now. And it's kind of like, it's just very residential. You don't have any like post-communist or communist feeling, but it's just residential. It's not really the touristy area. But yeah, you can see the normal people here. Yeah, that's pretty much it I can say. I hope I'm not leaving anything out. If, I'm sure some people may have questions about Moscow. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer it. But I'm extremely happy and just love this trip. I would never forget. And one more thing, just the final thought. The biggest surprise are the people. Absolutely wonderful and kind and elegant and normal. Just by and large in the streets also, people just know how to behave. I'm sorry to say this, I hate to say this, but in Budapest it's okay. But like, I travel a lot to Western Europe, and I'm just grieved for Paris. I'm grieved for London. I mean, it's just it's not going well. Well, you don't get that here. So that's all I wanted to say, and God bless everyone. If anyone has a question, I don't know how you can reach me, but I'd be happy to answer. And I have 3 or 4 more days, so maybe I'll have tons more experiences. I haven't seen everything, but whatever I've seen was just shockingly overwhelming and beautiful. So if you can come to Moscow, great, but be very circumspect about how you're gonna spend money and have cash or whatever, because you cannot use any of your assets in the West here. You just have to completely make life work with a bank account or through some friends or whatever. So that's my final thought, and thank you for listening. So if there's anything else, please let me know. God bless.